All right, guys. Day 310 of the Daily Bible Reading with Linda Weber. I'm glad that you tuned in. So today we're going to read 1 Kings 19, Psalm 129, and Luke chapter 6. As you know, we read one chapter out of the Old Testament, one out of the New, and one out of Psalm or Proverbs. So, Psalm, not Psalms. We've already read Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings is where we're at now. And we're reading about Elijah. It's pretty interesting. So you don't want to miss this. All right. I'm going to go ahead and share this. So if you're on here, maybe you could share it on your Facebook, and that way we could get more people. You know, you can watch it on YouTube, on my X channel, or Twitter. Used to be Twitter. There's all different ways you can watch it. Five different platforms we're on. But if you share it on your Facebook, we can get more people reading the Bible. There's going to be a great falling away, with people and from God. Okay. All right, that works. The sound works. And you don't want to be a part of that. So stay connected to God. Stay in His Word, and just keep on plowing through, no matter what. And I just want to encourage you to do that. Okay. Well, I'm going to get right into this. I got on a little earlier today because I think Pastor Zach's going to be doing a live stream as well tonight. So, and I've been busy all day, and I'm going to watch Pastor Zach whenever he's on. I don't want to interfere with him. So when you get on, let me know that you're here. And I'm going to start out with the New Living Translation. That was the translation Billy Graham always recommended. Especially if you're a new Christian, you want to get a translation that's easy to understand. It's okay. Ask your pastor or one of us, what's good translations. We'll help you. Okay, 1 Kings 19. When Ahab got home, remember yesterday, before I get into this, I was talking about Jezebel. Jezebel's spirit is alive and well. It doesn't, when we think of Jezebel, sometimes people think of a sexual spirit, spirit. It's really actually a spirit of control. And there's a great book out. It's called Confronting Jezebel. I think that's the name of it. I couldn't remember the name of it yesterday, but I have it on my bookshelf. And I found it, and it's called Confronting Jezebel by Steve Sampson. So that's a really good book, because once you study about Jezebel's spirit, I'm actually going to put it in the Confronting. Oh, shoot. No, not C-O-N. Once you recognize the Jezebel spirit, you know what you're dealing with. It's a spirit of control. By Steve Sampson. And if you could get hold of that book, it's great. Everybody should read that book, I'm telling you. I see it operating not just in the Christian world, but in, in people in the workplace, and even you might recognize some of them traits in your own self that you didn't even realize were there. So you need to get rid of that. The Jezebel is a controlling spirit, and it's not only women, it's men. There's no gender to that spirit. In 1 Kings, it's a woman. And she is with King Ahab, and Ahab is very passive. And normally, I could see it in a lot of marriages or relationships with a man and a woman. The woman is like usurping that man, and he's like beat down, henpecked, whatever you want to call it. It's a terrible thing. But anyway. All right, let's go ahead and read this. Elijah in 1 Kings 19. When Ahab got home, he told Jezebel everything Elijah had done. Because remember yesterday we read where they had the showdown at Mount Carmel. And, Elijah told Ahab to bring up the 850 prophets, the false prophets that they had. And the first God that would let's see whose God is going to answer by fire. And of course, God, Jehovah God is the one that answered by fire. And these guys were running around, these false prophets running around, yelling and screaming and cutting themselves and trying to get their God to move. And obviously there is no, their God's not there. And so Elijah started making fun of them. But anyway, I'm not going to rehash the whole thing. So Ahab goes home, tells Jezebel that her 850 prophets are now dead. Because Elijah told everybody, he said, go and kill these guys. They're false prophets. So, including the way he had killed all the prophets of Baal. So Jezebel sent this message to Elijah. May the gods strike me and even kill me if by this time tomorrow I have not killed you just as you killed them. Now she's upset because all of her gods are dead. Okay? Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left his servant there. Then he went on alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. So that could be up to, 30 miles or so. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. Doesn't that remind you of Jonah? He sat under the juniper tree and wanted to die tomorrow, I have had enough, Lord, he said. Take my life, for I'm no better than my ancestors who have already died. A lot of times when you have a great victory in ministry or whatever, that's when your worst attack is going to happen, is right after that. He just had 2 great victories, right? And so now he's wanting to die. But Jonah did the same thing. So here is Elijah fleeing from a lone woman, But, Elijah's still alive today. 2,500 years later, he didn't die. He was translated out of here. God took him, and just like Enoch. So Elijah has not died physically. He's still in his mortal body in heaven. Have you thought about that? He's praying to die, but he's actually still alive 2,500 years later. But Elijah and probably Enoch are going to be the 2 witnesses during the tribulation. They're the ones going to be in Jerusalem, and but they're going to die physically. They're going to be killed physically, and then they're going to come back to life. So it's appointed to men once to die, and then the judgment. We're all going to die physically unless we're alive when the rapture happens, which I believe I'm going to see the rapture in my lifetime. When Jesus comes and takes he's going to be in the clouds, and we're going to be caught up with him together. Read 1 Thessalonians for that. It's the rapture of the church. So he will return in the tribulation, Elijah will. So here he is praying to die. He's running from a woman. He's afraid she's going to kill him. So he laid down and slept under the broom tree. And as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and told him, get up and eat. He looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. Then the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you. So he got up and ate and drank, and the food gave him enough strength to travel 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. There he came to a cave where he spent the night. Okay, so he's afraid of Jezebel, and he's running from her, but he didn't stop to ask the Lord, where do you want me to go, right? Should always inquire of the Lord. But the Lord said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? Here's Elijah hiding in a cave from Jezebel. Elijah replied, I have zealously served the Lord God Almighty, but the people of Israel have broken their covenant with you, torn down your altars, and killed every one of your prophets. I'm the only one left, and now they're trying to kill me too. Go out and stand before me on the mountain, the Lord told him. And as Elijah stood there, the Lord passed by, and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was the sound of a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. And a voice said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He replied again, "I have zealously served the Lord God Almighty, but the people of Israel have broken their covenant with you, torn down your altars, and killed every one of your prophets. I'm the only one left, and now they're trying to kill me too." Have you ever felt like you're the only one? That's how he feels. Then the Lord told him, "Go back the same way you came and travel to the wilderness of Damascus. When you arrive there, anoint Hazael to be king of Aram. Then anoint Jehu, grandson of Nimshi, to be king of Israel, and anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, from the town of Abel Mahola, to replace you as my prophet. Anyone who escapes from Hazael will be killed by Jehu, and those who escape Jehu will be killed by Elisha. Yet I will preserve 7,000 others in Israel who have never bowed down to Baal or kissed him." They would actually kiss their idols. They would kiss them. That's why that's literal. So Elijah went and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, plowing a field. There were 12 teams of oxen in the field, and Elisha was plowing with the 12th team. Elijah went over to him and threw his cloak across his shoulders and then walked away. Elisha left the oxen standing there, ran after Elijah, and said to him, "First let me go and kiss my father and mother goodbye, and then I will go with you." Elisha replied, "Go on back, but think about what I have done to you." So Elisha returned to his oxen and slaughtered them. He used the wood from the plow to build a fire to roast their flesh. He passed around the meat to the townspeople, and they all ate. Then he went with Elijah as his assistant. And that's 1 Kings 19. Now let's go over to Psalm 1. Let's see, where are we at? We're on day 310. We're going to read Psalm 129. Hope you're all having a good day. I think most people are probably outside enjoying the 50-degree weather that we're being blessed with right now. But I didn't want another day to go by without me reading the Bible. We were on here yesterday. It's 50 degrees right now in Coshocton. In February 7th. I think that is amazing. All right, let's go ahead and some of you are on here watching. I see that. Oh boy. So what you all up to today anyway? You having a good day? Okay. One more. Okay. All right. Psalm 129. And I'm reading now of the New Living Translation again. From my earliest youth, my enemies have persecuted me. Let all Israel repeat this. So now Israel is being compared to a youth. Okay? So this is talking about Israel. From my earliest youth, my enemies have persecuted me, but they have never defeated me. My back is covered with cuts, as if a farmer had plowed long furrows. But the Lord is good. He has cut me free from the ropes of the ungodly. May all who hate Jerusalem be turned back in shameful defeat. And that can be said for today, too. May they be as useless as grass on a rooftop, because in the east they had like flat roofs, and they still do over there. And so there would be seeds that they would dry up there, but they wouldn't grow because there was no soil on the flat roof. So they're not going to get anywhere. May they be as useless as grass on a rooftop, turning yellow when only half grown, ignored by the harvester, despised by the binder. And may those who pass by refuse to give them this blessing. The Lord bless you. We bless you in the Lord's name. And that's Psalm 129. Looks like it's going to be kind of quick today, huh? Hope you all are doing great. We're on day 310 of the daily Bible reading. And so we just read 1 Kings 19, Psalm 129. Now let's go over to the New Testament. We've already read the New Testament through. Let's go through the books of the Bible again. You know, there's 66 books in the Bible. We're on the 11th book of the Old Testament, and the Luke is actually the 42nd book in the whole Bible, if you start from Genesis. So we've already read Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1 Thessalonians, 2 Thessalonians, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, Jude, and Revelation. How many of you got that down? How many of you can say the whole New Testament already? You don't have to answer me. All right, Luke is there's 24 chapters in Luke, and today we are on chapter 6, and Luke wrote it. Luke is really about the life and teachings of Jesus. So there's a lot of good stories on there. We read John the Baptist, the parable of the Good Samaritan, the prodigal son story. That's in Luke chapter 15. I preached that one a lot. Lazarus brought back to life, Zacchaeus, the tax collector, where Jesus is killed, Jesus returns, and Jesus goes to heaven. Those are all in the book of Luke. And Luke was a physician. Okay, let's go ahead and start reading. I'm going to the New King James Version on this. Luke chapter 6. Now it happened on the second Sabbath after the first that he went through the grain fields, Jesus. And his disciples plucked the heads of grain, or, you know, it wasn't corn. One version says it wasn't Indian corn, it was wheat. So his disciples plucked the heads of the grain and ate them, rubbing them in their hands. They take that wheat and go like that and get the seeds out of there. And some of the Pharisees said to them, "Why are you doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath?" Here's the religious people again, always with their rules and their, always trying to trip Jesus up, you know. But Jesus answering them said, "Have you not even read this, what David did when he was hungry, he and those who were with him? How he went into the house of God, took and ate the showbread, and also gave some to those with him, which is not lawful for any but the priest to eat. And he said to them, the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath. Now it happened on another Sabbath also that he entered the synagogue and taught. And a man was there whose right hand was withered. So the scribes and Pharisees watched him closely, whether he would heal on the Sabbath, that they might find an accusation against him. But he knew their thoughts and said to the man who had Jesus knows your thoughts, right? These religious people. Horrible. Always trying to find a reason to accuse Jesus, you know? It's terrible. Hey, Chrissy, I see you're on here. Stella, hello. Shalom, shalom. I knew I'd find you guys on here somewhere. It's not really, maybe it's showing up in the chat. I forgot. Nope, still not showing up in the chat. I don't know why. But when I went on my phone and seen you on Facebook, maybe Gail's watching too. Well, he might be at work because I'm reading early right now. John Katuba, good to see you on here. All right. Well, I'll just put it back on there in case you guys want to talk, because it is not showing up in the chat. I hate that because I wish everything could be right there and I could see you guys. I said I was, yesterday we were reading about Jezebel and Ahab and Elijah, and there's a good book out if you want to do a study on Jezebel, which everybody should read this book. It's called, and I put it in the chat, it's called Confronting Jezebel, and Steve Sampson is the author of it. He's got another one out about Ahab, and it's a good study. Everybody should study it. Jezebel can be a man or a woman. It's not a sexual spirit. It's a spirit of control. And you can see it operating in people. And maybe even see some of those traits in your own self that you might want to let God deal with that. If you have any traits of Jezebel, people don't even realize, So it's good to study these things because, and there's usually an Ahab with a Jezebel. You see a lot of men that are henpecked, as we call it, or beat down. Their woman controls them, and it's sick. It's sickening, really, because that's not what God intended. The man's not to rule over the woman, but the man should be the head of the house. I'm a firm believer in that. I was with my husband for 40 years, and so I think I can speak into that a little bit, before he went home to be with the Lord. And, a man wants respect and a woman wants security, but neither one of those things are going to happen if you have the woman ruling the man. It's sickening. I see it all the time in real estate. I see it when I see it in my customers, and I see it in ministry. I see it. There's always a Jezebel spirit that's going to try to attack the leaders of the churches. So they're going to find a preacher that is going to bow down to them, more or less, that they can control them. And you see it in the workplace. You have a domineering spirit in there, trying to control somebody, even if you're on the same level as they are. You're a worker just like they are, but they try to control you. That's the Jezebel spirit is all about control. So that I would highly recommend that book, Confronting Jezebel by Steve Sampson. And I've done a thorough research, not just that book, but I've done a lot of research on the Jezebel spirit. And like I said, there's no gender to it. It can be a man or a woman, but it's sickening. I hate it. I hate watching that thing. Even God said in Revelation, he said, I have this against you. You tolerated that Jezebel. In one of the churches, he was telling them that you tolerated that Jezebel. God doesn't want us to tolerate that Jezebel, All right, who do we got here? Yeah, okay, you can see it. All right, okay, let's finish reading. We're in Luke chapter 6. Pastor Zach's going to be on tonight at 7 with a teaching, a live stream tonight, so you don't want to miss that at 7 o'clock. That's why I'm getting on early today. Okay, so the religious people are watching to see if Jesus is going to heal this guy on the Sabbath day. All right? But he knew their thoughts, so Jesus knows your thoughts, verse 8, and said to the man who had the withered hand, arise and stand here. And he arose and stood. Then Jesus said to them, I will ask you one thing. Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to destroy? So Jesus goes back to the religious people with a question. And when he had looked around at them all, he said to the man, stretch out your hand, because Jesus is angry at the religious people at this point, And he did so, and his hand was restored as whole as the other. But they were filled with rage and discussed with one another what they might do to Jesus. Now it came to pass in those days that he went out to the mountain to pray, and continued all night in prayer to God. And when it was day, he called his disciples to himself, and from them he chose 12, whom he also named apostles. Simon, whom he also named Peter, and Andrew, his brother. There's a lot of brothers here. James and John, those were brothers. Philip and Bartholomew, brothers. Matthew and Thomas, brothers. James, the son of Alphaeus, and Simon, called the Zealot. Judas, the son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who also became a traitor. Judas Iscariot is always mentioned last when he names the apostles. Did you notice that? Okay. Okay, let's see. He's the great traitor, wasn't he? I'm always trying to find where you guys are hiding. You're not hiding, but I can't always. Hey, I'm coming over to Worcester next Saturday, a week from Saturday. Saturday, February 17th, 2024 at 6 o'clock. I knew there was something I wanted to add there. At 6 o'clock at the Valley College Grange Hall, or College Valley Grange Hall. After all this time, I still don't have that right. I just thought of somebody else that wanted me to send this to him, and I forgot. It's terrible. Okay. All right. So, And he came down with them, or verse 17, Luke chapter 6, he came down with them and stood on a level place with a crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea and Jerusalem, and from the seacoast of Tyre and Sidon, who came to hear him and be healed of their diseases, as well as those who were tormented with unclean spirits. And they were healed. Jesus healed all of them. He never turned anybody away. And the whole multitude sought to touch him, for power went out from him and healed them all. Then he lifted up his eyes toward his disciples and said, "Blessed are you poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who hunger, and now for you shall be filled. Blessed are you who weep, now for you shall laugh. Blessed are you when men hate you, and when they exclude you and revile you and cast your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake." Any of you getting persecuted out there because you're a Christian? Rejoice in that day and leap for joy. Yeah, don't get mad and cry about it and everything. Oh, they make fun. No, rejoice, be glad. For indeed your reward is great in heaven. For in like manner their fathers did to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full, for you shall hunger. Woe to you who laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, so did their fathers to the false prophets. Verse 27, love your enemies, right? But I say to you who hear, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. That doesn't mean falling in love with them. It means do what is best in their interest. You've got to choose your will to love those who persecute you, your enemies. Love the ones that are persecuting you, that are treating you wrong, whatever. You have to use Jesus as your example. And that doesn't mean you let people walk all over you, but you got to walk in love towards them, But you have to choose to do that. Doesn't mean falling in love with them, like, a feeling of love. It's you choose to treat them the way they should be treated. What's in their best interest to possibly get them saved, okay? I always told my grandson, he was in kindergarten, and I would always pick him up at school. And one day I picked him up, and he says, "Grandma," he says, "this girl, she keeps telling me I'm fat and ugly." And I said, "Well, buddy," I says, "here's what you do." He said, "She just won't quit. She won't leave me alone. She's picking on me every day." I said, "Here's what you do. Tomorrow when you go to school, when she starts picking on you, tell her, 'Well, you're beautiful.'" I said, "Take what she's trying to bring bad to you and take it and turn around and only say nice things to her, only compliment her. Even if you don't really mean it, just do it, So guess what? He goes in the next day. He told her that. And you know what she did? He said she looked at him and she turned around and walked away. Didn't bother him the rest of the day. And he said he told his teacher what happened. And she said, "Your grandma's smart." So, he never had another problem with her. When you come up against a spirit like that, counteract it with another spirit, which is the spirit of love, the spirit of God. And watch what happens. They won't be able to stand up against that. They'll go find somebody else to pick on. Okay. So he said, "I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you." And this is Jesus talking. In verse 28, "Bless those who curse you and pray for those who spitefully use you. To him who strikes you on the one cheek, offer the other also. And from him who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who asks of you. And from him who takes away your goods, do not ask them back. And just as you want men to do to you, you also do to them likewise. But if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you hope to receive back, what credit is that to you? For even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much back. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, hoping for nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the unthankful and evil. Therefore, be merciful, just as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and you shall not be judged. Condemn not, and you shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. Boy, I tell you, judge not, and you will not be judged. You know, I've heard many people at the church, they're very faithful to the church, and they're there every service, and but every service they're like, well, I can't believe people didn't come tonight. What's wrong with them? They come to a service and then they don't come, and then, they should want to be here. I love being here, and just go on and on and on, judging other people that aren't there. Guess what? On down the road, watch these people, these same people. They will be drug away by other activities, by family members, or the cares and lust of this world. Watch them. If people start talking like that out of their mouth, you watch and see these same people that are judging the ones that aren't there that same judgment is going to come down upon them. They're going to be tempted, and they're not going to be there. And I've seen it time and time again. Every time I hear somebody talk like that, it's like, oh, brother, oh boy, they aren't going to be here in a few months. They may come back again, but they're not going to be there because they're judging somebody. It's like, what, you think you're all that in a bag of chips because you're there every service? Just shut your mouth. Just keep your mouth off of people. And okay, verse 39, and he spoke a parable to them. Can the blind lead the blind? Will they not both fall into the ditch? A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone who is perfectly trained will be like his teacher. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck that's in your eye, when you yourself do not see the plank that's in your own eye? Hypocrite. First remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck that is in your brother's eye. For a good tree does not bear bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns, nor do they gather grapes from a bramble bush. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good, and an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil. For out of the abundance of the heart his mouth speaks. Right there it is, verse 45. So whatever's in your heart, it's no different than a drunk person. I hate talking to drunk people, but they sit there and everything that they're feeling and thinking comes out when they're drunk. Have you ever noticed that? If you meet somebody and you just let them talk for a while, eventually they can say all this fluff and everything and whatever, but eventually the true person is going to come out of their mouth if you just let them talk, But why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do the things which I say? But whoever comes to me and hears my sayings and does them, I will show you whom he is like. He's like a man building a house, who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. And when the flood arose, the stream beat vehemently against that house and could not shake it, for it was founded on the rock. But he who heard and did nothing is like a man who built a house on the earth without a foundation, against which the stream beat vehemently, and immediately it fell. And the ruin of that house was great. And that finishes up day 310 of the daily Bible reading. Sometimes it's real long, and then other times, it depends on how much I teach and preach, I guess. But I wanted to give you a little break because here at 7 o'clock, Pastor Zach is going to be on. So I wanted you to listen to his teaching tonight. It's going to be awesome. So thanks for tuning in, for those of you watching the replay as well. And I want to remind you, on Saturday, February 17th, 2024 at 6 o'clock p.m., I'm going to be back in Worcester, Ohio at the Valley College Grange Hall. I want to invite all of you out for a one-night Holy Ghost meeting. So, all right, guys, have a good rest of your day. And I'll see you on here tomorrow with day 311 of the daily Bible reading. So God bless you. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.